So what happened to my Blade Paladin build? It turns out it's terrible, but I'm going to go over why it's terrible as well as the thoughts behind the build. So to start off with, to make anything good, run Destruction. Destruction wins, Conjuration wins, Alchemy wins. These are things that we know just win fights. So in this build, I wanted to just use Blade, Block, Heavy Armor, and Restoration. I did not want to lean into Destruction unless it was an enchantment on a weapon. I didn't want to do a spell that just like puts a huge debuff and do a nuke. I've already done that. We already know it's great. We already know it's overpowered. So I wanted to try something different. So right out of the gate, we're looking at basically just a physical tank that heals. That's it, and uses Restoration. Restoration can do more than heal though. This is a thing that I learned was critical for this build. When I remade it on a completely different class, I spent 12 hours making this character, going through quests, leveling up, doing all the stuff, getting all the artifacts, and I got to a point where a basic 1v1 with a clan fear when I have full health and magicka was just resulting in me barely winning while also getting it stuck on things. So I knew the build sucked, but we have to go over why it sucks. So the first thing is the race. Nord is not that good. It could be better. Its passive of Frost Resist is just not there. Breton or Orc would be way better. The idea behind Nord was I wanted to get starting bonuses in certain major skills so that I could get them as high level as humanly possible to try to get more armor and to try to get, more blade damage and things like this. So ultimately that did not really pan out, especially in master mode. If you look at my heavy armor, it's at 65. And this early low-level Umbra armor is essentially Orcish, and if we were wearing full Umbra armor with Spellbreaker, which is a little bit better than Umbra's shield, we're looking at 38 armor, which is just not enough. You still take way too much damage, and you die too quickly. So let's actually demo that. Let's go fight some stuff. So let me just trade blows with this, which is something I should be able to do as a tank. I'm already almost dead. A 1v1 with a headless zombie, single power attack puts me near death. So I had to duel. I had to duel as if I was in light armor. If I'm gonna be running around and blocking and then counterattacking, I might as well be unarmored or light armor. The heavy armor just slows you down, and especially if you're not using feather or something to deal with it, it ends up just being a massive speed liability. So you end up tanking hits that you shouldn't be. You just get hit way more often than you have any business getting hit. Now this build can still function and kill to some degree, but every fight, especially with magical enemies, is an uphill battle and a struggle. Even with Spellbreaker, which gives 30% Spell Reflect, which also stacks with Ring of Namira, which also gives 10% Spell Reflect. And we have 12% Reflect damage, which also reduces our damage taken and also flips some of it back on the attacker. So even with 2 Daedric artifacts, and 3 if you want to count Umbra as a Daedric artifact, this build is not popping off. And the Nord choice alone killed my magic pool. And if I would have picked Orc, which has 25 magic resist and similar starting bonuses to the skills, or if I would have picked Breton, which is straight up has 50 more magicka and 50 magic resist, this build would be much better. If I get hit by a single spell, I basically die and then I'm forced to run away and heal, which sucks because I run slow. So that's one of the biggest issues. It's missing alteration. So right out of the gate, missing alteration completely hurts the build. That's one of the big problems. The other big problem is the birth sign was bad. So the original idea behind running the tower was I was thinking I could power level and then get to Ebony / Daedric, so hit level 15, maybe hit level 20 quickly, and then just go farm Daedric equipment, and then throw, get some Grand Soul Gems and throw Damage Reflect, which unlocks through getting the tower. Now you can get Damage Reflect through rebuilding the Gatekeeper from Shivering Isles, but I didn't want to do all this DLC just to get a thing. I wanted to start off with it. It turned out this was such a throw decision. I did place the tower low in the tier list, I think really close to the bottom. And this run kind of validates that for me. It also invalidates me putting Nord in A tier. I think it belongs in B or C. It's really not that good. It doesn't really do anything that's good. The races that are good are either fast, have magic resist, or have magic pool. Those are the things you want. Or their Wood Elf, which has good bonuses for Stealth Archer, which actually is viable. Stealth Archer is one of the few builds where you just use it and you don't have to really go out of your way to make it pop off. It can just be good. You do have to get Chameleon and stuff like this, but that's a race that doesn't use magic that can be good. for example, that actually does have this like major skill advantage where it has sneak, it has alchemy, it has bows, it has all the things that the build is going for and ramps into it. So you can kind of see I'm in what I like to refer to as middle game hell. If you're running armor, you know that armor is really only good when it hits 75 and then 100, but especially 75, it gets you a damage bonus on all of your weapons just by over repairing them above 100%. And the same thing is true with the armor. It allows you to squeeze more protection out of your armor as well. So armor is just like a maintenance skill until it hits 75. So I was desperately trying to get this thing to 75 and like paying to get it trained and stuff like this, and it just wasn't panning out. Athletics is here for movement. I do think this is still relatively, it's a good utility. It's good for just movement speed. Heavy armor starts off rough, so this helps offset the movement debuff. Blade, if that's your main source of damage, you're looking to do the weakness to normal weapons and to attacks, which is fine. The bleed damage I found on master mode to be kind of nice, but not really. You barely even really notice it. It doesn't seem to drain that much health. It seems to be like chip damage at best. But master mode on blade, master skill is huge because you get a 30% 10-second debuff as opposed to a 15 and 5. So double the debuff, double the duration. And then for block, honestly, I do think people are overhyping the shield bash. I did get master block on my other character, and it's way less damage than a power attack. It's okay damage, but for how much fatigue it costs and how long it takes and what it ends up doing, if you actually have a true tank build, you can just simply keep attacking enemies and you don't care what they're doing. A true tank build just walks up to things and just keeps whacking them, and if they counterattack you back, it doesn't matter because your build works. So, I mean, over reliance on block, I feel like block is something that you really want to run with like light armor, because it's actually very effective in this game at reducing damage. So if you can get good at your timing and your positioning with blocks, you can turn that into a stagger, but you can block into a stagger anyway. So shield bashing just allows you to stagger them before they attack or before they cast a heal or whatever. You can use it to shut down enemies, which is decent. But I do have another build that I will be demoing. I made a completely new character, completely new build, almost 20 hours on just that character alone already. 12 hours on this character. The new character build is actually pretty sick. I'm pretty excited for it, but I wanted to do like a kind of post-mortem on this build. The heavy armor. So heavy armor, you want it as high as possible to get as much damage reduction as possible. The big way this build failed is the low armor cap. If I'm moving slow and I'm not tanking, I'm just a sitting duck, I'm just dying. So everything that I'm fighting can catch up to me, it can wrap around me if there's multiple enemies. One of the nice things about being fast is if you're blocking or you need to reposition, you can maneuver away from enemy attacks and dodge through positioning. Whereas with, you know, the slowest move speed of heavy armor, if I'm out of fatigue and I can't use the block dodge or whatever from acrobatics, I'm just gonna get hit very likely because I move too slow. So it can be a liability, but you don't really see the benefits of the heavy armor until it stacks with alteration and it's at least like 50. So getting the heavy armor was a huge thing. It's also difficult to raise early on because enemies deal so much damage to you and your magicka regen is slow. So you don't really have a way of like tanking and then healing and then tanking and then healing unless you do some kind of conjuration thing, which would just be leveraging conjuration. Restoration is fine. I mostly just use it for healing. I did not leverage it as well as I do in the future build video, which is a successful paladin build. So I will be showing that soon. For other skills, we got acrobatics. You want to get it to 50 so that you can jump for reduced stamina cost. You do have to play around terrain and angles until you have good tanking. With this particular build, because I was on Nord, I couldn't tank magic, so I had to dodge magic. So imagine dodging spells with this move speed. If enemies are at like this range, say from here to here, you probably physically cannot dodge at this speed. You will get hit. You might barely be able to avoid getting hit by the projectile. So what you would have to do is if they're over there, you'd have to play like some kind of terrain thing or some prop, bait the spell, and then go for some kind of power attack to close distance, and then start DPSing them down. And then if you get caught, then you have to find an angle and heal. So that is very awkward to do on heavy armor. I would rather just be on light armor and just know that when I get hit with physical and I'm not blocking, it hurts, than be slow and then get hit with physical and it hurts anyways. So that's kind of the big issue, really, is the tanking. The other thing too are the Nord ratios are just not good in terms of abilities. We have Woad, which is just worse than Dragon Skin on Breton, which gives you 50% shield for 60 seconds, as opposed to Woad, which is just 30, which is really weird. You think with 50 free magicka, 50 magic resist, that Breton's good. That's all it needs. But they're like, you know what? Give him 50% shield for 60 seconds also. For no reason. Just give him everything. Also give him a new car. Why not? The Tower Warden ability was circumstantially useful to increase tanking marginally. Did also reflect a little bit of damage, but it's too low of an effect to really make or break a fight. If it was like 15%, then we'd be talking. So then we'd be looking at 25% damage reflect with this active. Plus, well, actually 27% with Ring of Namira. But that was really not a thing that was good. The other thing I tried running was some magic resist through Restoration, and then I had different heals. I didn't get to custom spells, which is also a mistake. This game on Master Mode is very much like this. If you can snowball your economy, you can go buy magic creation as well as enchanting from Frostcrag, and then you're good to go. If you can't, and you're struggling to like beat content and to kill enemies on Master Mode, your build probably is failing and it sucks. Now, can you always just go to like Coral and start training up Conjuration and then buy, you know, go to a Mage's Guild, sell all the alchemy stuff, train up Destruction to 100, train up Conjuration to 100 for free, and then just cast, you know, crazy spells and win? Yeah, you can always do that. But if you're actually trying to use a specific build without those game-breaking or just like really powerful skills, you're going to have to like dip into other things. Now, this is pretty much the end of this character. I don't really see me playing on this character anymore. I did get to Protector and Fighters Guild. I was getting pretty close to finishing it, but every single fight was just insane. I don't even think I have a Zero Star in this character, actually. I think I actually don't. Yeah, I never got a Zero Star because what ended up happening is I do such low damage and the vampires are so strong in the Gutted Mine that when I would fight one of them, they would do like 25% per hit, even with like my Woad on, so they're just doing way too much damage. I did figure out ways to kind of get around like unwinnable fights with the other tank build, so I'll go over that. But there were a lot of fights where I just literally couldn't make progress because I just didn't have enough damage. The enemies were too fast, they did too much damage. I just do not have the money right now. So in terms of inventory, I do have 3.8k, but if I were to buy a bunch of healing potions and mana potions, which this build might need just to function, it's gonna be, you know, pretty difficult. I do have some from looting, like I just did this whole dungeon, I just got some recently, but this build burns through those. You're always in like near-death experiences, so this build fails as a tank and it fails to kill, and the birth sign was bad, and the starting race was definitely a terrible decision. In terms of other mistakes that I made, I probably should have gone for some other Daedric artifacts. I could have got the Sanguine Staff for the Summon Daedra, which is actually pretty good for winning a 1v1. Or if you're like outnumbered, if there's like 3 enemies, you can just summon a Daedra on one of them. That's a pretty good thing. The other thing I could have considered doing is just like stealing Martin. Just like doing Kavach. Hey, look at this. Look how much damage I took from eating a hit there from that power attack. It almost killed me. And I have a lot of health too. The issue is not health. With tanking, the issue is damage reduction. Health will not save you, tanking will. I would rather be 100 health and like 75% damage reduction than be 280 health or whatever, 230 in this case, and be 30. Because with the 75% damage reduction, I have more effective health. So the more damage reduction, the better, and you really need to hit that cap. The other thing too is magic. If I get hit by magic, I'm just dead. So when I would fight things, the thing I'd have to do is kind of like bait the attack and then punish. Bait the attack, punish. I'd have to watch my fatigue. So I could still beat enemies, but it just took forever. Or I could do a punishment like that, but I did eat that attack there, so I have to like back off and heal. So I can't actually like truly tank. I can try to walk them down, but notice how I'm draining my fatigue a ton by doing this. And sometimes I would walk back just to regen. So that way I don't waste all this fatigue, and I'd do things like this. And try to dodge their attack and punish them and hit them with that. Around corners, maybe block, punish off of that. So there's like tech and there's things you can do, like positionally, to win. But if I just was simply a light armor tank and I was relying on block for my damage reduction, it would be way more effective because I'd be faster and I can weave in and out of their attacks more effortlessly without other resources. So yeah, that is it for the character Strong Woman. Unfortunately, Nord is mid. The birth sign is still terrible. Now, if I would have rushed making early enchantments for damage reflect, that would have helped me versus physical, but by being on Nord versus magical is an issue. I'd have to do trinket farming just to start stacking up like magic resist or spell reflect or whatever, and you don't really get the crazy trinkets until like level 20 plus. So the difficulty in this particular run was all the early game up until this point. The build is just starting to get to a point where it can function, but it's not good. So if we're trying to do like a build video, we want it to be good. We don't want it to be junk. So unfortunately, this build was junk. Rest in peace, 12 hours of playtime. I'll see you guys later. Peace.